Here is what really changed me after 3 years in Australia. Now recently on my channel I did a video 11 things that I have changed my mind about in Australia. So that video was more about how my views towards Australia have changed from my first year through to my third year, whereas today's video is more about me as a person, how I have changed because of Australian life. Some of these things are to do with getting a bit older, but the majority of them are to do with how life in Australia really has changed me. Now, if you're interested to see what them things are, then stay tuned to today's video. Make sure you give it a like and subscribe to the channel as well. And let's get into the long list of ways I've changed since moving to Australia. Point number one is isolation. Now, Australia's isolation really has changed me for a number of reasons. First of all, you are so far from home being in Australia, so it means complete independence. Honestly, I've become so much more independent since moving to Australia. Obviously, moving abroad in general, you're going to get more independent from moving, but moving to the other side of the world, like, there's no better experience at trying to become independent by doing that. Honestly, you are so far from home. Every issue, everything, money issues, housing issues, jobs, all these things you've got to deal with completely on your own, which is a massive benefit of moving, by the way, is the self-growth from having to be so independent. As well as this, the isolation has meant that you do spend more time on your own. At home, for example, I lived at home with my family. I'd see my friends like all the time, every weekend and stuff like that. However, in Australia, I do live here with my girlfriend. In most places we live, we don't know anyone. And whilst we have made friends at certain points, it definitely takes time. And one thing I've noticed is I've got very used to spending time alone. Not completely on my own because of my girlfriend, but not being surrounded by lots of people that you know. And that has definitely led to me being so much more aware about everything, about myself, about life, things that you don't really realize about yourself at home because you're always surrounded by people. When you do go and have extended periods of time on your own, you become so much more aware, which can be a good thing, but can also be a bad thing. So isolation definitely has changed me being in Australia. Number two is the freedom in Australia, which has improved my confidence massively, mostly because when you move abroad, especially somewhere like Australia to the other side of the world, you don't know anyone at all. So you can literally almost rebrand yourself, be this whole new version of yourself. It's not like when I lived back home in the UK where everyone knows everyone and you're kind of held back about doing stuff that's a bit out there because everyone knows you. So you kind of just stay in your comfort zone. However, when I moved to Australia, I managed to do things like start social media. I've said this before, I don't think I would have done that if I just stayed in the UK. So the freedom of moving is mad, and it does allow you to really explore your potential and try new things that you wouldn't try because you don't care anymore, because you don't know anyone. Point number three is not having the influence of my friends back home, and that has led to me being able to explore new things and new hobbies, which being at home I might not have realized I liked so much. Back in the UK, all I really used to do was go out on the weekends with my friends, drinking in the pub. That's about it. And whilst that is still so much fun, it was all I used to do, so I never really got to experience much else, learn what my true hobbies and passions, that sort of thing are. And by going to the pub so much less, I've been able to just do so much more of a variety, do you know what I mean? New activities, new things, healthier activities for a start, do you know what I mean? So I'm definitely drinking and partying way less than before I moved to Australia. Point number four is being around Aussies. Now this has changed me for a number of reasons. First of all, I feel like my accent has toned down a bit. A lot of people say when I speak to Aussies at work, it does take them a while to even know that I'm English. In fact, some people don't even know that I'm English. Maybe my accent has toned down a bit moving to Australia. I don't really know. I haven't noticed it myself, but speaking to other people, they kind of say that my accent isn't that strong and they've met English people with a way stronger accent than me. So I think being around Aussies, my accent has definitely faded a bit, but also working with Aussies, and apart from my girlfriend, who's English as well, I spend most of my time in Australia with other Australians. So I think it has changed my kind of humor in a way. I think in the UK we're very sarcastic and blunt with humor. That's not so much the case in Australia. Aussies don't really get that as much. So I think my humor has changed a bit to adapt to more of an Australian style. Not massively, but probably more than when I moved. My humour would have been very British. So yeah, the sarcasm, but also like British phrases and little jokes, I don't find myself doing anywhere near as much now. So it's different now, having been around Australians for 3 years as opposed to like my friendship group. Point number 5 is coffee culture, and it's fair to say moving to Australia has literally made me addicted to coffee. I was a bit of a coffee drinker in the UK. I used to have a coffee like every morning, but never out. Now I go out for coffee multiple times per week. I even go on my own. Me and my girlfriend, whenever we're off together, we get coffee. Maybe I would have done that in the UK, but definitely not to the same extent. The coffee shops in Australia, and also the culture, and also how good the coffee is, I'm now like addicted to it. Point number 6 is the hot weather. The reason that has changed me is now I actually sometimes crave the cold weather. Back in the UK, I would never ever crave the cold weather, not even in the summer, because summer wouldn't be that long. In the UK, you spend pretty much the whole year waiting for summer to come round, and when it does come round, it feels amazing. Living in Australia, you get so used to a hot climate. You have hot weather for most of the year. And honestly, now it's at the point where I look forward to cold weather more than I do hot weather. You go like 9 months without cold weather, you do actually start to crave it. It's crazy. I would have never done that in the UK, but now, like, sometimes I do wish for a rainy day. Being in the UK, you would never say that. Point number 7 is the slower pace of life in Australia. I used to always get to the weekend and I would be like, who's doing what? Who's planning something? Are we going out? Are we doing this? I would be like itching to get out. I would be like, I couldn't sit still, do you know what I mean? I was like, go, go, go. Every weekend I always wanted to do something. I hated sitting around, and I still kind of do, to be honest. I don't like being bored. But in Australia now, I am much more happy just having a chilled out weekend. Doesn't get to Friday now and I'm like, what's happening? I kind of just quite happy to go with the flow, go for a nice coffee, go for a nice walk, sunbathe, chill in the sun, maybe have a swim at the beach. I don't get the cravings to go out so much, and I'm quite happy just going with the flow and just seeing what we get up to on the weekend, rather than in the UK where I always had to have plans. I needed like something to look forward to. In Australia, I'm quite happy to just go with the flow, and I think the slower paced life in Australia has made that the case. Point number 8, the nature and the scenery. I genuinely now would say that I enjoy hiking and going out to nature more so than nights out. This is a combination of things, obviously, getting a bit older, of course, but living in Australia away from my friends, that is another factor. But the nature and the scenery in Australia is amazing. I would rather hike somewhere amazing to like the best beach and swim there than just get blackout drunk in a club. And because the nature is so much more amazing in Australia, it's made me really appreciate nature, and I am happiest now when I'm out in nature, for sure. Compared to in the UK where, I don't know, I feel like I didn't really care about nature so much. Point number 9, being away from home in Australia. I now actually appreciate the UK quite a lot. When I first moved, it wasn't really the case. I was very happy to be out of the UK, but having been away 3 years now, I actually do miss the UK in some ways, and I do miss the people in the UK. When you've been away for so long, you do actually start to appreciate things and miss things about the UK, and there was a point where I was like, I would never move back to the UK. Now, we are going to move back at some point, because being away, you know, you do realise that there is actually quite a lot of stuff you did like back home, particularly the people, which being away for so long, you do now appreciate. Point number 10 is, before I moved to Australia, all I wanted to do was move abroad, move to a new place and live abroad. Now, that's not really the case. Obviously, living abroad for so long and getting very normalised to it, I don't get the urge to go and live abroad now. I just want to live somewhere nice, and then most of my cravings now are to go and travel the world. I want to have like a base, which will be in the UK. But now, I'm not chasing living abroad. Obviously, I've been living abroad like 3 years, so I don't care about that now, but what it has done moving to Australia is it's made me want to see so many other places in the world. Moving abroad isn't the big aim now. The aim is to see all these different places all over the world. I didn't really care about travel too much 3 years ago when I moved. I just wanted to move to Australia, do you know what I mean? Now, travel is the main aim. Point number 11, it has opened my eyes so much towards work and made me realise that I do definitely want to work for myself. I think this is a combination of things. Mostly being in the UK is literally the definition of the rat race. I feel like everyone just is stuck in that trap in the UK, going to their 9-to-5 job, paying their mortgage. Not everyone obviously, but for some reason the UK just feels like everyone is doing the exact same thing. They're just serving the system, doing the exact same thing. Moving to Australia and seeing all this amazing scenery on your doorstep and people actually living life, it makes you think like, why do I want to spend 40 years of my life working for a company where I only get 28 days holiday? I can't choose what time off I want. I've got to ask permission for a day off. I don't want to do that. And I think moving to Australia and seeing these amazing places to live makes me realize like how cool would it be just to be able to choose wherever you want to live and work for yourself, work in these amazing places, choose the time off you want. I think being away from the UK, escaping that trap, that kind of system that everyone's in, it's not till you get out of that when you realize what's actually possible and your eyes are open when you move. And it's made me even more not want to be like everyone else, just stuck in a career. Point number 12 is job hopping. Now this has changed me for a number of reasons. First of all, my skill set has improved massively. Again, I compare this to someone who's worked in a career in the UK, just one career for like their whole 20s. That's the only skill set they know. So if for whatever reason they had to change career, do something different, they wouldn't be able to do much. Compared to me that's job hopped a lot. In Australia, I've done so many different jobs in different areas, so my skill set is always developing. I've added little bits here and there, and if I had to get a random job for whatever reason anywhere, I wouldn't have an issue because I've gone and done so many different jobs, and my skill set now from job hopping abroad is quite broad. And another benefit to job hopping abroad is like, now I know what I like and what I don't like. If you work in one career, you kind of just accept that, I guess. I know now what I definitely don't like and what I do like when it comes to work. Point number 13 is knowing who I really want to surround myself by. Being in all these different environments, hostels, work, travel tours, all these kind of things, you definitely get surrounded by lots of different people, and being here and doing all that, I've definitely learned who I like to spend my time around. I guess if you're in the UK, like I said, working in a career, you kind of just accepted your life with your work colleagues and you don't really know who you want to surround yourself by. Moving to Australia and being surrounded by all these different people, you know who you want to be around. And that's definitely changed from moving here. When I first moved, I wanted to be surrounded by lots of young backpackers going out partying, that kind of thing. But now, I want to be surrounded by people who are a bit more mature, people who actually have their shit together, have big goals in life, people that have also moved to Australia like us. They're the sort of people that I want to be surrounded by. And I think moving here and doing lots of different things, now I've definitely learned that. Point number 14 is I've realised that nice places and staying in nice places, visiting them, is definitely worth the money. And I think back in the day, I would have rather, I'll use going out and drinking as an example. A few years ago, I would have rather gone to a shit pub and had 10 beers than go somewhere nice and have maybe 3. Now, I don't really care about getting drunk. I'd rather go spend the money to go somewhere really nice and just have a couple of drinks and enjoy a nice time in a very nice setting. I would much rather that than spend the same money and just get drunk. Do you know what I mean? I think now I value spending more money to have a better experience for sure. And point number 15 is experiencing the city and the countryside has made me realize that I definitely want to live in the countryside in the future. Again, experiencing different things in Australia really does make you realize what you really want. I've lived in cities and I've lived out in the countryside, and I think it's not until you do both until you really realize what you want. And I realise now, I definitely want to live in the countryside, especially in the UK. I don't fancy living in a UK city. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. If you're thinking of moving to Australia, definitely do it. It's the best thing you'll do. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments on this one, and I'll see you in the next video.